So it's fantastic to see some familiar names and faces amongst the crowd and to see colleagues joining us from around the globe. I say welcome to this Advanced HE webinar, looking at the framework for embedding employability, but also a range of initiatives from colleagues in Bahrain, Australia, and Ireland, and a large amount of work that's already being undertaken in that regard. Some housekeeping for today. We do kindly ask you to keep your microphones muted unless asked to share, and this just helps in terms of reducing background noise and the chance of speakers being interrupted. The event itself is being recorded, and recordings of the sessions today will be made available to you after the event. If you have any questions for the speakers, please do post them into the chat. We will keep hold of those and we will pose them. The way we are going to run today is we will let each of our speakers present, and then we will take Q&A at the end. So each presenter will present and then the Q&A will follow at the end. But please do post your questions in the chat as we go through. If you do experience any technical problems, you will see that our colleague Robin Clark is available. If you go to chat and select private chat and speak with Robin, Robin will do her utmost to resolve any of your technical glitches, and hopefully everything will run smoothly. But that is the most important name in the room in terms of any assistance that you may require. My name's Stuart Norton. I'm the Head of Educational Excellence at Advanced HE. I've been at Advanced HE now into my 10th year. Prior to that, I've spent 13 years lecturing in applied criminology. So I'm very much a recovering academic, and I do understand the pressure, pain, and stresses that colleagues do go through. Absolutely delighted to have three guests joining me today. Briana Madden from the University of Galway, who's the Employability Award Officer. Dr. Nabil Kadhi from the Vice President for Academic and Affairs and Development at the Applied Science University in Bahrain, and Professor Fiona Naumann, Associate Dean of Education at Southern Cross University. I did just want to say to colleagues that whilst we're talking about employability, and I'm sure it will come out today, it's really hard to disaggregate certain areas of student success. And so before I hand over to our speakers, I did just want to contextualise the Advanced HE framework for embedding employability and how it sits amongst our other sections. This is one of 9 series of frameworks that come together, have been presented over the last 2 years, are freely available. I'm sure we will provide those links for you. And those prevailing, the frameworks themselves offer a prevailing themes for how you can enhance student success for students across the globe. The one thing which we're very, very keen on is that they are not prescriptive. And I think that's very, very important. We use these as reference points to have that common language to enable discussion, shaping of policy and the development of process and practice around broad and complex issues that impact student success. And each framework is structured in the same way to give perspectives for institutions, for educators, and also for students. If you have access to a mobile device, you may like to use that QR code there, and you'll be able to get taken direct to a link where you can download these. I'll just leave that up for a second. You can see there on the side, students at the centre, fundamentally everything impacts that. The educators, and we've termed that Educators Plus, because when we use the term educators, we're not just speaking about academics in the classroom, we're talking about all professional services that impact and influence. So particularly for this framework, it will be careers and enterprise hubs, and what we refer to as third space professionals, where careers professionals are engaging with students in that learning environment and often operating in what's become known as a third space. I can also see my colleagues just posted a link in the chat to you, so I shall move this slide on. At the institutional level, the frameworks promote a whole institution approach in creating a vision and culture of shared responsibility in the development of policies and processes which support students, and in providing space and resource for innovative and inclusive learning environments. Those words on the dial have come out from over a decade's worth of research, 3 literature reviews, and these are the main areas where we're suggesting that you need to start looking in terms of developing your strategic priorities. So again, it's not prescriptive, and you may be doing some of those, that may be where you are, but these are the areas which the literature reviews and all of the research suggests that you should be focusing upon first. So in terms of the institution, those are the areas we're looking at. For Educators Plus, this is where the core areas come out from, and this is where the educators can influence that. So in your own spheres of influence. And we would suggest that this can be used as a benchmark to map against your current practice. So what is it you're doing? Are you doing it? Where is it in the curriculum? So where are those gaps and what needs to be done? Looking at collaborative engagement. So how is it the multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary teams are working? And it can also be used as a really helpful guide to finding out where you need more resources. Is it in work integrated learning? You know, how are we supporting students in terms of placements? I will have to say for colleagues joining us from Australia, work integrated learning has a very specific meaning for yourselves, which I'm sure Fiona will touch upon. From a more UK-centric point of view, it's much more of a holistic term to cover all types of work placements and work learning. But it's still a very, very core part of that framework. And in terms of students, being able to offer those key elements where they need to understand and be responsible for their own employability too. This isn't about doing something to someone, this is about them taking that responsibility. And I truly do believe that although and I'm not going to be swayed by neoliberal arguments around employability and the changing nature of higher education. You know, if we start using the word student success, we can start to see that actually these are things that are very much needed for students in order for them to have positive trajectories upon graduation. So I think that's enough from me. I've taken up 8 minutes of the time, and I'm delighted to hand over to Dr. Nabil in the first instance. We do have a video which has been curated, which Dr. Nabil will then provide some context and the scene setting after it has been played. So please do let me know if you can't hear sound. I'm hoping this is all going to work. That's enough from me. And Nabil, once it's finished, over to you to provide some further reflections.
Sure, thank you.
At Applied Science University, we are very pleased to have the joint experience with Advanced HE by adopting the Employability Skills Framework. This year, then today, we engaged in sessions of training to our faculty members and academic staff and decision makers in order to establish and define the employability skills of our program. Since then, we started first by identifying the 7 or 8 employability skills that are considered as core and very important for each program. After that, these employability skills have been mapping with the program component with the different modules by identifying the level of contribution to the acquisition at the student level. Every module can contribute to many employability skills, initiating them, reinforcing them, or allowing the students to master them. From this matrix, where gaps have been identified, we are proudly introducing today our employability skills fingerprint for each program, in which every course is mapped with the various employability skills, and we can see the level of contribution and the percentage of contribution of every module to the acquisition of each employability skills. Not only that, we were able to identify the most appropriate activities that are to be embedded inside the classroom or in the extracurricular activity. With Advanced HE, adapting the framework, we are proudly having today a really well-tailored employability skills, making our students and our graduates ready for a dynamic market. The implementation of the Advanced HE Employability Skills Framework allow Applied Science University to follow and adhere to the recommendations and guidelines and rules of the Higher Education Council where it comes to the employability skills. This is in fact allowing us to make sure our graduates are equipped with the right employability skills. We are not only following their progression, but also assessing the level of acquisition of these employability skills, and such allow us to suggest for them tailored and personalized sessions, certificates, and extracurricular activities to make sure that our graduates are ready for the market as per the guidelines and regulation of the Higher Education Council. Thanks Advanced HE, and thanks our staff, academic staff and faculty member for your amazing work to make this journey a success. Here at Applied Science University, Bahrain.
So first of all, thank you, Stuart and Advanced HE for this opportunity, and I'm very pleased to be with esteemed colleagues today. To summarize our experience with the framework, we have been lucky at Applied Science University, Bahrain. I think the framework, when it was launched internationally and openly, we were among the first, if not the first university to start adopting it and having the training session. Now, the most important added value is, first of all, it consolidated all the stakeholders on the same understanding and the same table, including faculty members, academic managers, students' affairs, activities, continuing education sectors or training centers we have, and all people start speaking the same language and understanding what do we mean by employability skills and putting the students at the core of that. It changed the behavior of faculty member in terms of actions and activities in the classroom. Students start realizing when we spoke to them that this is at the end for a purpose that will allow them to assure they are ready for the market. And we made that available for them in a simple word. They see differentiation in the delivery, in the students' activity. I'll just give two examples of things that have been embedded that the framework allow us, to see where this can be. If we are speaking about critical thinking and capability to make a judgment, and in the courses and the normal activities in general, we rarely give the student cases. We ask to see if they analyze it well or not, but we rarely give an activity where the students made a judgment and we evaluate that. And what better than a peer review activity, that will allow us to adjust that and to see if the students are really judging their peers on a pragmatic way, following a certain number of criteria, and we do challenge them in that. So when we adopted the framework, really, we put the student at the center of it, and we look at it at a holistic view. We also engaged with stakeholders, our program advisory boards, in order to validate and to confirm that these identified employability skills are really what they are needing. And today in Bahrain, there is a country-level effort in having skills Bahrain and employability skills Bahrain, and we are really aligning that. So we also were able to see are our course content and delivery model aligned to these employability skills or not. And we have been, through the percentages you have been seeing, identifying the level of contribution of each module through the activity. It's not through the educational outcomes that we usually speak about as educator in a program, but through the skills acquisition. We really focus on learning by doing, and we see that as a global, activity that all the stakeholders have to consider. Once we did that, we also completed that by a list of workshops and professional certificates that have been mapped to that. So when we identify and we measure, because we defined even a tool to measure the level of acquisition of this employability skill by the student. It's not only the exams, it's a different way. So we have a matrix on a scale of 3 to say, oh, they meet the expectation, they are below the expectation, or they exceed the expectation, the minimal expectation of acquisition there. And if we diagnose that the student at a certain moment approaching the end is not getting the level of expectation, we define the list of workshops, extracurricular activities, and even certification that we're gonna guide our students and orient them to go to so that they can really complete the needed information in that. So to conclude, the framework was really a kind of flexible glue that allowed us really to articulate things together, to look to them with a critical eye, and mainly to make all the stakeholders cooperating together for something that is understandable of all. When we speak about scale that the market is needing, whether you are an educator, you are student, you are student activity, you are an international partnership officer, you understand it and you can see it in the same way. And one of the things that we are also embedding, for example, this year, we're starting our first summer school. We are receiving 15 international students in our summer school, which we believe is one of the tools we are using to allow our students to mingle with peers from different culture and different background that will, help in teamwork, because here they are exposed to a totally different team between brackets with different culture and different background. So really, thanks Stuart and thanks Advanced HE for this amazing framework. We can see really, I want to just conclude with the word you mentioned, the flexibility. There is really a great flexibility in the framework that gives you a certain number of valid guidance and orientation, but at the same time, allowed to embed the particularity of each program, each environment, and each level of skills. It allowed us even to align with the national requirements here, with the Higher Education Council requirement when it came to the employability skill. It's an amazing experience. It's not the end of it. That is just the start, because we believe we're going to move forward from one step to another for one single goal: student success, students' employability, market readiness. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nabil. And yes, thank you. I think the framework itself is entirely able to be contextualized to your own setting. It's not prescriptive. It's what needs you. And I think the reality is, if there was an easy answer to all of this, we'd all be doing it already. So there is no easy answer, and there are many different ways of doing it. And I was very, very fortunate. I had the opportunity to visit Bahrain, and actually the framework was launched while I was in country, and hence why I had this opportunity to work with Dr. Nabil and colleagues at ASU. But there has been many, and continues to be many fantastic initiatives that have already been underway, and many different ways of looking at things. So I'm delighted now to also introduce our next presenter, who is Professor Fiona Naumann from Southern Cross University, to talk about their experiences specifically related to their block style of teaching. Fiona, over to you.
And thank you. So everyone can see my screen, yes? So I'd like to thank Advanced Higher Education for this invitation. I am a Principal Fellow and have really enjoyed my time working with the resources, and certainly one of them being that employability framework. So at Southern Cross University, we have recently, I'd say sort of 3 to 4 years ago, transitioned to a new way of delivering teaching and learning known as the Southern Cross model. So instead of our traditional sort of 12 to 13 week semesters, we've gone to blocks of 6 weeks for our learning. And I think, although it was an opportunity, we've changed the sort of structure, but I think more importantly, what we've changed within it is how we deliver teaching and learning and design curriculum for our students. So in addition to changing the structure, we also changed the how we delivered teaching and learning, how we designed curriculum, how we engaged the student and the role of students in their learning. And what it did, it provided an amazing opportunity for us to rewrite all of our curriculum and redesign it in a very structured and scaffolded and coordinated way, with an assurance across all our courses that we were able to meet all of the learning outcomes that we wanted. So in terms of student employability, we were able to take this framework and have every course team have a look at their existing course and say, right, let's put everything off the table. Let's start again. How would we design an amazing learning experience for our students? And so when we looked at employability, we didn't just have to look at it as a unit that we might tack into a course. We actually were able to look at each of the areas that our students needed to learn and scaffold them across all of our courses. And because the institution had chosen to transform, everyone across the institution, everyone across my faculty, and everyone within their course team were able to transition in a coordinated way to ensure that all our students were being delivered amazing employability opportunities. So this was certainly possible because of the institutional direction, but also being able to then partner with Careers Employability, our external placement providers, and our course teams. So everyone in each of my courses were able to meet and sit down with Careers and Employability and actually plot the journey for a student across those sort of 3 to 4 years. What do we need them to be able to do at the start, and how do we evolve that and mature it to graduate our employable graduates? And so I think the first thing I'd say is that it was all about that partnership with the various elements around the university to be able to co-create this. Students were involved in the co-design, And we're able to embed it in meaningful ways. We didn't just have a single standalone unit. We might have had a module here, and then in the second half of the year, we, further advanced it. So this is just an example of our newly designed 6-week course. There is 6 modules across, so every week our students will do a new module. This is one of our science and engineering courses where they look at career development and professional practice. This is an example of where there might be a whole course, but we don't necessarily say that's how you have to do it. Others kind of just embedded elements within a module. So instead of having a whole unit, we could just have learning activities that were purposely placed into curriculum at a spot where it was most relevant. So, we might have a capstone unit where students are going on their final placement. They're really getting ready to graduate, ready to start applying for jobs. And, we've touched on a LinkedIn profile. Well, let's update it. Let's make sure that you're ready to apply for those jobs. Let's get your resume. Let's build and capture all of the qualities that you developed across your course. And so we had every course team sit down and say, in stage 1, what do we want our students to know? And it was around professional identity. They'd picked a course. What were they going to be? And then what are my options? What are the opportunities? And then just start connecting them to what is possible and getting them excited, which kind of helped a little bit with retention. Then we got them to develop and showcase their capabilities, start building their profile, start getting them ready to be integrated into work integrated learning. And then in the final stage of every curriculum, we consolidated their skills. We made sure that they really gained that valuable work experience out in the field, but also started things like CVs, job applications, applied for graduate programs, and really started getting connected to the networks that will enable them to find employment. And so this is a quick example of the early career. Who am I? What's a possibility? And, we might sort of post 18 options of a day in a life. So my base discipline is sports science. And, you might hear a 2-minute talk of someone that works at the Institute of Sport and what does their day involve, and get them excited, go, oh, I'd love to do that. And just things that they maybe weren't aware of as being options. So you start getting them connected to who they are and what excites them, and then what skills will I need to develop along the way. And then we work out, attach an assessment to that sort of learning module. So Me in a Minute, we ask them a series of questions. They post it. In a minute, they tell us about themselves and what they hope to do with their amazing course opportunity. But we also revisit this at the end of the course to see, well, how did you go? Did it evolve? Did it mature? Did you deviate? Why? In the middle, we start then maturing it, consolidating their skills for work integrated learning. We start running things that might value add. So if I want to be a sports scientist and work in an Institute of Sport, I might go out and do my level 2 strength and conditioning. That's something our course offers a level 1, but if I get a level 2, that value adds to my profile. And it's no point telling them at the end, you should have maybe done that. And then we get them ready for work integrated learning and make sure that they thrive and really grow with all the opportunities that they can seek in that work integrated learning environment. And with our internationals, we layer additional support because they're learning in the Australian culture. The context of our work environment is very different, particularly to the Asian cultures. So we engage some learning modules. We get the peers who were in their shoes, the international students, to share their experience and give them key pointers. We say that in our country, it's good to receive feedback, actively ask questions, and just meet their supervisors, offer support and check-ins along the way, so that at the end of that placement, they've maximised their career development, their skills, their competencies, and their networks. And then finally, in the capstone year, we start consolidating it into employment prospects. And I think the final point I'd like to make is that it's really exciting now that many of us are moving towards a program of assessment as we deal with Gen AI. And so what we're doing at Southern Cross University is taking all the elements of a student's employability, and one of the elements will be employability. And, you know, we're going to map within a folder, within an e-portfolio, their employability journey. So, you know, what did they want to do at the start? How did you evolve it? How did you value add? And then showcase this ready to a graduation panel, that they're ready to graduate, but also then take it with them for potential employees. So it's been a journey, and I think, you know, one that's certainly still continuing.
Fiona, thank you so much. That was really, really interesting. And that employability journey, I think, is something that's fascinating. And I have questions myself, but I must stick to the format and be strict. But I might take chair's prerogative later. But delighted to invite our third speaker next, Briana, Madden from the University of Galway, who is going to talk to you about an employability award that we're very keen to share.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, that's working perfectly.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, sorry. My name, as I said, is Briana Madden, and I work in the Career Development Centre in the University of Galway, which, for those of you who don't know it, it's way over on the west coast of Ireland, next up America. So that's where we're situated. So I'm here to talk to you about an initiative that we started a number of years ago called the Employability Award. So the purpose of the award really is, initially it was started to help students, particularly those who don't have a placement as part, so what we call a placement, so a work experience module as part of their as part of their degree program. It has now evolved, and a lot of students who have a placement will still do the Employability Award as they prepare for that as well. But that was the initial idea behind it. So the whole thing was to understand what employability means. It's not employment. It's, you know, a lot more than that. And to get students interested in their own employability. As Fiona said, there's lots of different places they can go with their degree and start thinking about that whole holistic approach to it. So to recognize and develop their employability skills. So to look at, okay, your coursework, what skills are you developing through that in the terms of employability skills, sort of surface those skills, then also to develop more during your course through the award and afterwards. Okay, for the career that I'm interested in going in, what are the most common skills that I will need, and how can I spend my time during university getting involved in activities that will develop those skills for me. Then when you've done all that, then how do I showcase that on my CV, and how can I talk about it in interviews to employers? So, and as I said, it's to help them to be empowered to make successful transitions towards fulfilling careers. So it's not just about getting a job when you finish. It's, where do I want to go with that job? How can that work towards my career? And then prepare them for lifelong career management. As we all know, there's no such thing as one job anymore for, your entire career. It's a whole journey. And so to get them into the habit of thinking about it in that way, so that they can move forward with that. So there's 5 elements to the award. And the students have to complete each element to receive the award. So the first one is an employability workshop, which we run with them, which is kind of explaining to them all about what employability is. We look at some, job specs. We look at what employers are looking for. We look at research, what what the World Economic Forum says skills are needed, what the employers in our local region say they need in terms of employability skills. All of that different stuff goes into that employability workshop to get them thinking as they start out. Then we do ask them to complete 40 hours experience, which helps them to think, you know, it can be volunteering, extracurricular activity, part-time work, whatever, just to get them thinking, okay, what skills am I developing during this time? We have a series of skills workshops, which are mostly employer-led. So we ask the employers to come in and to give those sessions to the students. So that works two ways. It gets the employers in, and they can get to meet the students, but it also helps the student because, number one, I can be talking to them about what the employers are looking for, but it means an awful lot more to them if the employer actually comes in, takes the time to prepare and give them a workshop on it. It really shows that the employer is very interested, and that it does mean, you know, that it is important to them, and they should really take note. But it also it gives them a networking opportunity with those employers. And as I say, they're usually employers that have a place. We try and get them to be on site if possible, so they actually get to meet in person. So they're usually local and regional employers where our students may end up working. We have a number of career events. As I say, I work in the Career Development Centre, so lots of different workshops that we offer them on, you know, CVs, what to do with my degree, you know, interview skills, all of those different career events. So they get an opportunity to attend those. And then, oh, sorry, finally, this is the bit where the students actually start to do the work themselves. They update their CV with all of what they have learned throughout the award about their skills. They complete a practice interview, which is based on the competency part of you know, a job interview and how they can show their skills. And then they complete a reflection as well on their journey through the award. So that's it in a nutshell as to what the award actually contains. But then just to give you an idea of the numbers, we started back in 2017, 2018 as a pilot to see, you know, okay, is there interest in this with the students in this? And we started with 56 students. And you'll see that there has been a phenomenal interest this year in 24-25 academic year, which we've just completed. We had 1,100 students taking part, 700 plus attended sessions with employer-led skill sessions. There was 26,000 hours of experience recorded by the participants. So this is giving them all very, excuse me, very good experience where they can learn and implement their skills. And then we had 650 students ultimately receive the award, and that's a small number there that you can see in the picture. So that's kind of it in a, you know, a nutshell, what it's all about. This is just a quote from one of the graduates. The Employability Award definitely played a central role in helping me secure a job when I graduated. So it's always good to get that kind of feedback from the students that you're actually doing the right thing. And that's just a couple of awards that we won last year, 2024, the Global Career Summit, Career Services Summit, the Founders Award for Innovation, and the Education Awards here in Ireland for the Career Impact Strategy Award. We've also been shortlisted for a couple of other awards. And so even though that's not what it's all about, it's nice to get that kind of kudos. It gives you a little bit of a G-up when you're in the midst of trying to assess 650 applications. So we assess all of the applications for the award. So we assess their CV, their interviews, and their reflections. And so it can be a bit daunting when you're in the middle of it. So it's nice to get that little bit of kudos. So How we aligned some of it with the framework, I've just taken a couple of bits of it. There's a lot more synergies, but just to kind of see some of them. We, as I mentioned, we get employers in, but we also have 2 strategic external employer partners who sit on our steering committee and really give us that industry perspective. So at any time, as you know, somebody mentioned AI already, the workplace is changing rapidly. So it is great to have that, up to the minute industry perspective at all times. That helps us to understand, okay, what is it employers are looking for? What skills are changing? What are their needs that now need to be met by our graduates, and how can we prepare them for that? They also provide support for the award, and they ring fence a number of summer internships for award recipients. As I mentioned, a lot of the students that complete the award do not have a placement as part of a work experience placement as part of their award. So this gives them that additional chance to get a placement opportunity. We have the liaison. We facilitate, as I mentioned, employer-led skill sessions across. We try to get a very diverse number of employers across all fields, so that students understand that these employability skills are important across every job and every area that you want to work in. And it is becoming in our, around here, it's becoming a recognizable indicator of employability preparation. So after 6 to 7 years, employers understand when they see it on a CV, and they can talk to the students, and the students understand the value of it. So nearly there. So across the university, we have partnerships with academics and with all of the other groups for extracurricular activities. And we, as I said, we run skills workshops, and we surface the skills for the students. So it's very student-centered. It's run, the students work at their own pace. Oh, sorry, nearly there. And they do, skills self-assessment. So it really is about empowering them to help themselves. We're just kind of the conduit to help them. So they build their confidence, self-agency, self-awareness, etc. Some of the challenges, it is sometimes hard to, break through in the start with the academic collaboration, but we're getting there as the program has grown, and that really helps to get more student engagement. So my advice is to partner with the interested academics, and they can act then as ambassadors with the other colleagues. And we meet the students where they are. So we go out and meet them at whatever activities they're doing, and helping them to understand, well, all of these activities help you when you're going to look for a job, not just your academics. And then there's just a couple of other recommendations. Start small, partner with local and regional employers, and keep it flexible and update regularly. I think Stuart was talking about that it can fit in many places. So that's it for me.
Brian, thank you so much. That was really, really interesting, and what a valuable reward, and so good to see it grow over the length of the time there and actually have that, because as I said, there's no one single way of doing this, but sometimes we have to create something, don't we? And then what's the impact and what's the result, and do we do it next year? And to see that over that period of time is really, really helpful. I've been collecting some of the questions in the chat, and we shall start putting those in to our presenters now. Please do continue to post. I'll do my best to get through all of them as possible. If we do start to run out of time, I'm sure colleagues will respond in the chat as well. Nabil, to yourself first, just from the top. In terms of your platform and the software used to map the framework to existing programs, was there any particular program you did use? But I think in some ways, how long did that process actually take you and your team, and what was that process like?
Yeah, I mean, when I saw the question, that gave me an idea. Oh, we should develop a platform for that. To be very honest, this was done like on Excel sheets with the commitment of everyone. And when it came to time, it was really time consuming. We have around 21 program, and we were working on creating first consistency across department, then college, then university. We reached the level of consistency department and college level, and now we are working on a consistency university level, in the sense that we're gonna give a strict definition, more or less, for each employability skill to make sure that we speak the same language. Let me pick an example. Someone would say communication, and someone would say digital communication, and someone would say communication and presentation. So we are coming up with a clear definition, working on that to assure the standard definition of that, and it's to 90% done. Now, in terms of framework and timeline, this took around a couple of months, 3 to 4 months, let's say. It started after the training, and Stuart, the faculty member, had various sessions where they were submitting things, receiving your comments in the analysis, and then we came up with the final shape of it. We came up also with this nature of activities that they have to specify the activity. We define what does it mean an activity and how we're going to evaluate the activity. So I would say like 4 to 5 months to start giving something in a final shape. And then around 2 months to put all of this in a nice format, compute those percentages, and ask ourselves now what we're going to do with that, because the most important thing is the implementation at the end of it. But that's a good idea. We might think about a tool that we can develop where we define these employability skills and we define the levels of them, and then you go and embed your curriculum and then click on it and have these auto-generated. I think I'm going to submit this to our IT team. Good idea.
Thank you, Nabil. And I think one of the really important points that you mentioned right there is actually the true definition of what it is you're talking about. If someone says communication, what does that actually mean? I don't know if there's any colleagues on the call from Wales this morning, but I am aware that there's a working group at the moment looking at the exact meaning of the employability language, both with the university and the students, but also with employers. And I think that's something that's really important in terms of understanding what it is that we mean. Fiona, was there any particular software program at all you used yourselves? That was just a follow-on question, I think, really.
Well, certainly the curriculum embedding was just part of the course design process. But I think as we move to our program of assessment, it will be building it in our e-portfolio, which is linked into our Blackboard Ultra, our learning management system. And we're going with anthropology, I think, or not even sure. So we're in the process of designing programmatic assessment across our courses. Health is leading with 2 of our courses. And so a folder within that e-portfolio will be employability. And I've seen a couple of questions about, the students and whether we evaluate it. I just didn't have time in 10 minutes to show some of the evaluation we've done with these employability skills, but we have been able to build student connection with their professional identity, their confidence and their self-efficacy. And, the way that the Southern Cross model works is that the student is a very active participant in this learning journey, and they gather the evidence and develop the skills and they showcase them. So by starting this journey in this portfolio from year 1, they can go back to that me in the minute and say, who was I and what was I hoping to do? But look how far I've come. And this is now me ready to graduate and present myself and my skills and have what I have to offer to an employer. So, yeah. So they'll be able to do that within that e-portfolio, and it'll be.
Thank you, Fiona. I think that's really helpful. I'm also aware that Southern Cross University are doing a lot of work around block teaching, and you are involved in a range of symposia with colleagues in the UK as well. I will get that link for colleagues and share that, because those events are also free, and I think that's really helpful, because then you can start to see how this builds in. It's not an add-on, it's actually something that's really apparent and used the whole way through. Really interesting question for all colleagues, I think, really to consider, and that's in terms of the research on graduate outcomes that can be affected by issues of socioeconomic class, ethnicity, gender, disability, and to what extent have any of these been looked at or examined in relation to the development of initiatives undertaken? So is there any data or any impact that you've identified around that?
Well, we did some work with our international, so ethnicity. They were struggling to get employment, our international students. So we evaluated what they were struggling with and what they needed support. So part of our career and employability element early in their course is they come in to those cohorts and help them apply for, I'm in health, so maybe a nursing assistant. And so they're training to be a nurse, but careers and employability is helping them get that employment as a nursing assistant, develop their skills, learn about the work environment. And then when they graduate, they've had 2 years or 3 years of practice as an assistant. So there's very targeted initiatives because we sort of trying to work out where across our cohorts are there people that are struggling more than others. So yeah, that's a little bit of evaluation we've done on one of those areas.
Thanks, Fiona. Brian?
Sorry?
Have you done any any work in terms of the
Yeah, no,
disaggregating?
well, we do work very closely with what we call our access office, which is mainly our disability, and we do work with them to highlight, you know, the students that take part, and we run specific sessions that are maybe more aligned to those particular cohort of students, etc. But a lot of the time, those students don't want to identify themselves, so they often just, you know, coming to the main one. But if they do, we do run specific workshops aimed at those and try and get into, you know, where the space that they're at to encourage them to take part. Really, that's the main things.
Thank you. And Briana, in terms of your own presentation, some specific questions. One of them is whether the award is leveled in any way. So do students complete it all at once? Is it in a period of study, etc.?
Yeah, well, what we tend to do, we ask them to, I found the easiest way to do, you can do it over a 2-year period if you want. So you can start it in 1 year and, you know, drop, well, you know, not like complete it all in 1 year, and then complete it the following year if you want. So it's allowed to within a 2-year period if you want. But mostly I find I run it in kind of blocks, as Fiona was saying, 6 to 8 week blocks, because I think that's where you get their, you know, their motivation, they're interested. They lose interest if they drop it and they're gone, you know, and it's hard to get back in. Can they do it only once? Mostly, yes. But I might have a student who might have done it in 2nd year and comes back and says, okay, can I do it again? You know, because I've learned a lot, and they might have had an issue completing it in the first instance, particularly. As I say, we do assess them all, and particularly if they didn't actually get the award the first time around, they can say, can I take part in the program again? But generally, it's just once during your period of study that you do it, and most students would complete it in one block during a semester.
And how's that promoted to the students? Is that
it's a lot of feet on the ground, as I said, meet the students where they're at. We go to every, you know, we go to clubs, societies. I've great relationships built up with all of those extra and co-curricular activities across the the university. There's a lot of those kind of voluntary kind of things for science, for a lot of students are helping a lot of other students, and they don't realize, you know, how that's helping themselves to develop their skills and stuff. So we go out and meet them where they're at all of those different things. We also, as I said, academics, they are a great ambassador for the award. So we go into the classrooms, we provide the workshops within the classrooms, we get the lectures to kind of point out to the students the benefits of taking part in the program, because it is all up to the student. It's not mandatory in any way. And so it's just all about building those relationships, and just, you know, now we've got to the stage now where the good thing is that students talk to other students, said, oh, I did that last year and I really learned a lot, and that really helps. So I get those to go and talk to, you know, the new students as well. So it's a lot of work, and you have to keep doing it all the time. But it really, I don't see there's any kind of way beyond just going out and meeting them and talking to them and telling them about it.
perfect? Thank you very much. The next question I want to pose to all presenters. So Nabil, I'll come to you first, then Fiona, and then Briana. Just looking at the amount and the type of the content that comes out of this, how much is delivered from a central employability team and how much is delivered by the program team? So I know they're obviously all different, and I know yours is an award that's run within your section, but what is the kind of relationship, I think, between the academics and third space professionals, career services, etc., and how does that work? So Nabil, if I can come to you first.
Thank you, Stuart. Very, very important question. I think academics cannot do it alone, and it's a big, I think, mistake if we believe that it's only something to be done in the classroom by the faculty member. But if you want to put a ratio on that, I would say it's around 60-40, 70-30, 60 to 70% that is in the classroom for a simple reason. I mean, it's not in the classroom, it's by the academic, because we do a lot of that during field trip that the academic is doing, taking the students outside to the corporate side and exposing things to them and showing them why a skill is important and how they can use it and how they can acquire it. So, and then there is this 40% that came through the extracurricular activities, through the continuous learning, through the professionals, a lot of corporates who can deliver sessions, invite the students, as I said, in field trips and other. So I think in a near future, we will tend to have it in a 50-50, because I believe the education is changing. You know, we are no longer tied to a single mode of education, and educator today cannot cope with all the advancements. So they need themselves to liaise with peers from industry and from corporate, you know, and corporate have more and more to participate in the delivery of the program in a various way, especially in applied education.
Thank you, Nabil. And I think just for context for colleagues on the call, Applied Science University, there's a clue in the name there. All students at ASU actually have a placement. So the whole university is very much geared to an employability focused route and way through. Fiona, can I come to you with the same question, please?
I'd probably say very much 50% the faculty and 50% careers and employability. I think careers and employability have some amazing information, but it's about connecting the students that sit in faculty to the careers and employability. And I think if we just left it extracurricular to the students to go off and initiate things, we'd miss many students that could really value that support and that guidance. So that's why we took an approach as a faculty and an institution to really embed it in curriculum so it reaches all of our students. And I think, you know, we use the expertise of career and employability, but use the faculty and the academics for the connection to the students. And that's worked really well. By connecting with the academics, you get the context as well, because I think a generic careers, you know, activity won't hit the mark the same that a career session that is relevant to them as, say, a nurse or an occupational therapist. So what the academic does is help make the context relevant to that student cohort. So it's truly a partnership. And that's why, as part of our course redesign and transformation, I made sure every course team sat down with the careers and employability and worked out what it looks like. It wasn't one program for all. It was very much a program designed for that cohort. So yeah.
Thank you, Fiona. And we're going to have to say goodbye to Dr. Nabil, who has to go to another meeting now, but thank you for your time. I shall let you go. But Briana, can I ask you the same question, please?
Yeah, I would say, you know, when Nabil was saying academics can't do it all, I would say we had the opposite problem nearly here, that at one stage it was, oh, that's the job of the careers and employability team, and not so much the academics. So we're working really, really hard to embed a lot of it now into, you know, get the academics involved. And it's, you know, it's a what would I say, it's a sliding scale. Some are really, really interested, and it really is embedded within a lot of their courses because they understand it, and it's a harder job with others. But we are working hard to we have modules now, career employability modules that are now sitting in the curriculum. And as I say, I'm getting as much as possible into the classroom. And I think it really does need to be, as Fiona said, that partnership with the two, because I don't think either can do it. They're not silos. it has to be a partnership, because it has to, you know, it has to help the student right throughout everything that they're doing. It's not just, okay, you go over there to talk about where you're going afterwards and you go over here for your academics. They're very much all part of the one where the student is going.
Perfect. Thank you, Briana. We are coming to an end. I do have a couple of slides to show, but I'm also conscious that Leonard has come back in terms of his question. I think in some ways, Leonard, you know, of course, these aren't side issues. They are absolutely central. And we've known for a while that graduates from more privileged backgrounds are more likely to have access to informal networks. You know, there's an absolute classic one there. They have the ability to undertake unpaid internships and cultural capital that significantly influences hiring and advancement. And similarly, gendered expectations and racial bias continue to affect both recruitment practices and progression, not just within universities. I think it's fair to say that the all institutions are hopefully, and certainly from those that I've engaged with and those on the call, are responding to this through initiatives and helping to have those conversations around contextual recruitment, inclusive career education, targeted support for underrepresented groups. Whether there's that exact data or that answers that you were looking for is there, I'm unsure, but I think it is something that people are aware of, and it's something which I would also like to touch upon just in my last slides. If I can just go back to sharing, bear with me 1 second, colleagues. The joys of modern technology. Let me present this slideshow from current slide. So in terms of how Advanced HE can support, you'll have links to the website. There's different types of activity that's ongoing. What I did want to highlight to you is just in terms of our podcast and our podcast series. We have one coming up on enterprise, one on student engagement. There is one on inclusive curriculum. And that was the point that I wanted to get you to, was the fact that we have our inclusive learning and teaching framework. And there is also 2 webinars coming up discussing that specifically. And as I said right at the start, in terms of the Student Success Framework series, you can't separate and disaggregate all of these different areas. Inclusivity is absolutely essential and critical in terms of employability and how we take that work forward as well. Please use that QR code. Please do book on. I trust you have found this session as informative as I have. I'd like to extend my thanks once again to colleagues, to Nabil, Fiona and Briana, and to say whether you're starting your day and whether you're coming to the end of your day, thank you ever so much. Safe and pleasant journeys home, and we look forward to welcoming you to future events. Many thanks. Bye-bye.